Welcome to this week's episode of Success in Women. I'm Linda.
I'm Andrea.
And this week, instead of talking about all kinds of things to help you get successful, which we always want to do, we were going to tell you how or show you ways, teach you ways, and all these other things, because it's one long tip this week on traveling. Andrea and I are big travelers. We've traveled a lot over our lifetime and we continue to do so. And we can tell you about the trials and tribulations of actually traveling, whether that's cruising, your airfare, staying in hotels, all kinds of other things. You're going to learn a lot. It will be an enlightenment for a lot of you. So, Andrea, where are we going to start in our travel tips?
Oh, well, that's hard to say, but I want to start off first with your luggage.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yes, and I have some horror stories to say about luggage. And first, my sister-in-law, who just came back from a Mediterranean cruise for 11 days. And when they got to their destination to get on the cruise ship, there was no luggage. Only her luggage. So there was
was missing.
That was missing.
Okay.
3 couples. She didn't have any luggage. At first, you don't panic. You get on the ship and you're hoping that, well, needless to say, it never did arrive. 11 days.
Wow.
With no clothes, no makeup, no hair products, no shoes, no bags. And she did not carry with her any change of clothing. So the ship was really good, and they gave her some t-shirts from the gift shop, and some of her friends gave her little things here and there, but she had to wash out her underwear every night. Depend on her friends to give her, a hairbrush to blow dry her hair, whatever. Needless to say, it really ruined her trip. She tried to, make the best of it, but she said when she was in her room, sometimes she would just break down and cry because it's very sad. You save your whole life. And same with myself a couple years back.
Okay, before we go on to that, so Andrea, what's the lesson here for our viewers?
I was going to get to that.
Okay.
Okay, so because I'm going to just tell you the ways that it can happen. The same with us when we went to Italy a few years back with my daughter. For her wedding, the same thing happened. We arrived in Rome and we didn't have any of our luggage.
Wow.
Not my daughter, not my husband, not myself. And we had flown, my husband had enough American Express points to fly all first class. And we still had this trouble.
Wow.
And we arrived on a Tuesday. And Eddie's cousin's son was getting married on the Saturday and Stacy the following Tuesday. Well, because of my husband's persistence and threatening the airline and whatever, we...
In a nice way.
Yeah, well, not quite.
He's very... but Eddie is very persuasive.
Yeah,
her husband really does have a way of being able to talk to people.
And he's persistent.
Yes, he's persistent, but he gets action because of the way he handles people.
Right. And then it did finally arrive on the Friday. So we were able to have our clothes. So, but up until then, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we were washing clothes and we had to run to the local store to get toothbrushes and all this kind of thing. And then the third time this happened, we were going on a cruise and we flew into Florida and we were staying at a friend's house, our cousin's house the night before. The cruise was the next day. Picked up our luggage, went to their place, got on the cruise ship, opened up a suitcase with our key. In those days we locked it. I don't even bother anymore.
Yeah, I don't either.
And Eddie says, "What's all this crap in here?" I go, "Crap? What are you talking about?" I look. Cereal, bread. I go, "That's not our luggage."
Oh my God.
Wasn't our luggage. And thank goodness that there was a latecomer to Miami airport, because our luggage was sitting in the airport, because at first we thought, well, maybe the person that the name tag was on the ship. They were not. And so luckily they had sent a van late to the Miami airport to bring back that suitcase and bring ours. And thank God, because it was all Eddie's clothes, which, you know, my husband's a big man. We wouldn't have been able to buy anything for him in the Caribbean. So here's the moral to the story. Okay, 2 things. Try to identify your luggage in some way that you see it right away, like either with a ribbon, or nowadays, if you look in the store, they have bright colors, they have different designs, they even have luggage covers that you can put on there, like Mickey Mouse or whatever you're into. Now I have, and mine at that time when we were cruising were black like everybody else, no markings, and I didn't check the tags. There you go. Number 1, when you, even if you know it's yours,
check it.
Open that flap and make sure it's yours. Because if I had done that, we wouldn't have had that problem. So what I did was, when we got back from that cruise, I went out to the store and I bought myself a set of luggage, black and white crowns, leather. And I'll tell you, nobody else has that in the world. That luggage has been all over. So that was number 2. So check your tags, try to make your luggage more distinguishable, and always, now what I do in a carry-on is put in a change of clothes, change of underwear, a toothbrush, some toothpaste, just a few things in case your luggage gets lost.
Yeah. And it's a good point. The only thing is, with your sister-in-law, that was something that was unavoidable, because even if she had it distinguished, the airport misplaced that luggage right from day one.
Right.
And one of the things that happened is that just before she was going to be returning home, they found the luggage and they said she could pick it back up at her home airport, which was Toronto.
Right.
Didn't make her feel any good, except that when she unpacked everything, all the beautiful things that she had brought for her cruise, she was like, oh, she was having memories of where she could have worn it and didn't get to do that. Because I know when we cruised one time, and we were at a resort for the week before we went on a cruise, and this was in Dominican Republic, where they didn't speak really any English. And we had seen them put our luggage in the van that was going to the airport. What we didn't see when we stepped away from the back is that they pulled my husband's luggage back off. We don't know why that happened.
Wow.
But in the end, somehow they were able to get it to the ship 3 days later. So out of a 1-week cruise, he had his, and because he had a tuxedo, because back then we wore formal nights, we had tuxedos and stuff for the men. And so the very first formal, which is always the next night, he was in flip-flops and shorts and a t-shirt, because...
But what's funny is men don't care.
Men don't care. No, he didn't.
He didn't care. My husband would be so happy. But for women, we care.
Yeah. So my luggage was fine, and thank God that I didn't commingle any of our stuff. So it was only his stuff that got lost.
Well, now somebody else told me, which is probably a good idea, is put half of your stuff in one luggage and half in another.
Yeah,
that in case one gets lost, like what happened with myself, I would have had, half of Eddie's and mine, and vice versa, and the same with my sister-in-law.
That's right.
If she would have put half of hers and her husband's, so that does work. And the same with your children, put a little bit of everybody's in every suitcase. Mix it all up so that you have something.
And that's really a good tip, because really, you don't know. Now, for the most, I've been lucky,
especially the way things are going now.
Well, and that's true with all kinds of travel, especially with, cruise traveling, air traveling, all of that. All of a sudden, one piece of luggage gets mixed. Now, hopefully it's not like you going to Italy where all of the luggage got missed.
Right.
But in the case of, with your sister-in-law, one, at least, her husband would have had some of his clothes. She would have had some of her clothes. And you can
wouldn't have been so bad.
It would not, because even some underwear could be in both pieces of luggage and stuff.
Right.
And that's a great tip for people, because nowadays, this happens more and more often.
It's happening more and more often.
And then again, having some of those things in your carry-on, big time difference to have something as a change. I like to do that anyway, especially if I'm on a long flight, because by the time, you know, you might get your luggage right away or you're waiting. But sometimes when I get off the plane, I just feel a little grungy, and I just really need to change my underwear and my top and stuff, you know. Because I remember one time at the airport, I actually had to go and buy a top because I didn't put something in my carry-on, and I just needed now my top changed.
But you know, and it's hard now too, because they restrict you so much with weight.
Yes.
Even on your carry-on. So you have to carry that with you. So you don't want to pile yourself up with a carry-on full of underwear and clothes and maybe shoes or something, you know. But in the long run, it could save the day.
Yes, it can.
The other thing when you're packing is to make sure you take photos of your documents, have those in a safe place in your carry-on, and take a picture of all your medication.
Yes.
Now, even though usually they advise you to carry it with you,
yes,
and we do, but when you're traveling or you're, especially if you're in Europe and you're going from place to place, if you misplace it, at least you have a photo to take to a local pharmacy or whatever, that they can get you an emergency supply until you get home. So remember to do that. Another good tip is to throw some dryer sheets in your suitcases. Keep everything fresh smelling. You know, sometimes in the plane, you know, especially if you're like when we went to China, 15-hour flight, you know, it can get a little muggy. So
but one of the things that, and Andrea had mentioned, you know, about sometimes what her and her husband do, these little air fresheners that clip on in your car. They bring them for the hotel, just so that the air is a little bit, I'll say, nicer.
Right.
Because sometimes it does, when you first put on the air or the heat, it's actually got to have musty smell in some rooms.
So you take those little car clips and put them on the vents, and then within a few minutes, the room smells so nice. That's another really good tip. I love that tip,
though, even for me, because I stay in hotels when I'm, you know, doing some, I'll say when I'm on the road for my work. And, you know, those hotels.
They can get pretty smelly.
Yeah. You know, they're just, Yeah.
So now the other thing I was looking up was about when you should fly. And they're saying that if you fly on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, generally it could be cheaper and less people, because, you know, everybody wants to go the beginning of the week or, you know, on the weekend or Friday or whatever. But they're saying if you can go those 2 days.
If you're flexible. And I've actually heard if you want to go to Disney World and I'll say enjoy the experience, Tuesdays and Wednesdays are also days that are really a lot less people because
in the parks.
Yeah, because if they're traveling or getting ready to go back home kind of thing. So when they arrive, it might be at a time like on the weekend or say the first Monday or something because they're excited to go. But Tuesday is usually a better day to actually have shorter lineups.
Right. And you know, funny you said that, because when the kids were little, we used to go to, for Christmas, we'd always go to our place in St. Petersburg. And we'd always spend New Year's Eve in Disneyland.
Oh, Disney World.
Disney World. Yeah, that's Florida.
Yeah.
So, and you know, it can be pretty hectic then.
Yeah.
But my birthday is January 2nd, so I always like to be there on my birthday. And a lot of times people are leaving January the 1st.
That's true.
They've done the New Year's Eve and the next day they're going home. And we used to find, because we stayed the 2nd and the 3rd, the parks were almost empty. I remember one year we must have went on every ride 2-3 times.
Yep.
There was hardly anybody in the park. So try and plan when would be a better time. Like, don't go at peak times.
Right.
And you really want to enjoy yourself.
And I think now, because back then, Andrew, we didn't get that opportunity to Google, but they probably have statistics now as well online that will tell you when it's, I'll say, less busy.
Right.
So those are the times that you can plan, because even though now they have these fast track lineups, you're paying so much more, and it's not cheap to actually take your family there in the first place, and you don't want to have to add all this extra expense if you can.
Yeah.
Try to find out the lower, slower days.
Not do half of what you want to do because of the lineups.
Well, the lineups, and then the days run out.
And, yes.
You know, people get tired by the end of the day, and you just can't do anymore.
Well, one thing we did too when the kids were little was we stayed on a Disney property in one of the resorts, and a couple of times the hotel we stayed at, the monorail brought us right into the hotel. So when my children were small, it was great for us because Eddie could stay out with my older daughter later at night, and I could take the two little ones and feel safe.
Yeah.
And just go straight into the hotel. It was really beautiful.
Wow.
Yeah, if you can do that, that's another great thing. Then you don't have to deal with the parking the car and all that kind of stuff. And they do have, you know, those kind of rates where if you want to combine it, and if you're staying on their resort, the Disney opens an hour early for people who are staying on the resort.
That's helpful.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The other thing they say is to fly, if you're going to fly in the morning, the less turbulence. Oh. And I do find that in Florida. When I leave late at night, you know how from 3 o'clock on, we always have thunderstorms or rain. And but if you go in the morning, you're usually much better off for turbulence. That's what they say anyway.
Well, the thing is, because my cousin used to live with a pilot, and I talked to him about turbulence because, you know, a lot of people are afraid to fly. Mm-hmm. And if you want to go somewhere, and especially if you don't have a lot of time, flying is the way that you have to do it. One of the things that I've learned is that turbulence is, you can kind of equate it to speed bumps in the road. So you got to slow down kind of thing for speed bumps so that you don't have that full impact. Well, when you're in the air and you're going, whoop, 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 and it feels scary,
it does.
And people wonder why the pilot's not coming on and everything else. But turbulence is really nothing but air pockets.
Right.
And so you kind of have to, I'll say, educate yourself and whoever you're flying with not to worry about that type of stuff.
Right.
because
it's just scary because of the feeling.
Well, because you're so high up.
When you hit an air pocket and you drop, it's scary, you know. So
it is, but that's not the dangerous
part. They always say turbulence will never bring an airplane down.
No,
so that's good to know.
Yeah, and so you know, it's one of those things where just accept that that's part of it. And when you get a nice smooth flight, it's a bonus because a lot of flights that I've been on have been turbulent, and there was one. You know, I remember it was a short flight and only going from Winnipeg to Toronto, which is not very long. But I mean, we were bouncing all over that sky. And I was sitting between these, I don't know if they were two brothers, but they were two guys traveling together. And they said, this is nothing. We've been through worse. And I'm like, that was my worst. And of course, my family, they stayed longer in Winnipeg for a family wedding. And I had to go back to work. So I was home and on the plane by myself, scared the crap out of me. And it was like, but you know what? The more I got educated, the more relaxed I am. And of course, I always leave everything in God's hand. I say my little prayer when I get on, that He's going to give us a good, safe, smooth flight.
Right.
If it's not smooth, that's the way it is. But I don't panic like I did because it's out of my control.
Yeah, I don't panic either. When you're not comfortable, let's face it. But I'm not worried about falling. Oh no, I would never stop. And like you say, we all have our little rituals. Like I do the Lord's Prayer as we're taking off. My husband always taps the outside of the airplane. Everybody has. My girlfriend does the sign of the cross. We all have our little. My daughter holds her rosary.
It's funny because when you say about the sign of the cross, because I never go into water either at a beach or a pool or anything without doing the sign of the cross. And that's from when I was a little kid. I don't know why, but I always, had to be blessed kind of thing before I went into water.
Wow.
And I never thought about it for the plane, but I do always pray once I'm all buckled in and we're getting ready for the takeoff, and I always say my little prayer to God to, keep us safe.
Keep us safe.
But I never thought about it. But for swimming, always I've done the sign of the cross. I can't even tell you when I would have started that because it was so long in my youth. And I don't know who would have taught me that because I don't see any of my other Christian friends or Catholic friends doing it. But I won't go into water without doing it.
Wow.
Ever.
Well, maybe because you're a brother.
No, I think more it could be also, Andrew, when we saw that young girl drown
Oh,
at the
yes.
at the creek, and
Yes.
I always remembered that as well. I don't know, but I wanted God to keep me safe if I was in the water.
Right.
And but anyway, it's just one of those things that you do. But traveling is so much fun, but it does come with the downside as well.
Right.
And so we have to
Try
learn
be
how
prepared.
to, yeah, be prepared and try to find ways to overcome some of the things that do happen. Because for some people, it almost, it's like a ritual that they're going to have something bad happen.
I know.
And then they come back with all the horror stories of because their trip was ruined
Right.
because of all these things. But if you go prepared,
right.
You know, you
you have to think about everything beforehand, what you're
Yeah.
going to need, what you should do. Make sure you have your appointments made for your hair, your nails,
Yep.
your teeth, whatever you want to get done. Make sure that's all done at least a week before
Yes.
you travel. Don't wait till the last minute, because then you get all nervous and whatever.
well, because you're rushing around too
Right.
much. You're
And
hardly enjoying
and
the
not even
experience.
just for yourself. Like I was just telling Linda, my esthetician and my hairdresser are both traveling.
Yeah.
They're both leaving for Europe. So I had to make sure I want to make sure that I'm done, and it'll last till they
Yeah.
get back. So find out if any of your dentist or the people you use on a regular basis are traveling, because you don't want to be stuck. So that's things to think about, and sometimes we just don't think about them, and then when at the moment it's like, oh no.
So even when you're packing, make a list of the things that you're going to need. Think about the activities you're going to be doing, because some activities, at the end of the day, you're going to be changing. You're going to be showering and having to have a new set of clothes. So
Right.
you can't have an outfit. Say you're going away for 14 days and have 14 outfits, because some of those outfits, in one day, you're going to have maybe 3.
Yeah.
You're going to have the one that you were out, hiking or touring or doing whatever. You come back, you showered, you're still casual because it's early enough in the day. But then you're going to be going out for a nice dinner, and you might want to, dress up a little bit more.
Exactly.
So all of a sudden now, but wear and pack things that you can actually reuse. Because some of the nighttime stuff.
like a pair of black pants.
Yes.
You can wear 2 or 3 different times with
Yep.
different tops.
Tops, yep.
Nobody's going to notice your
Absolutely.
pants. And then a pair of black shoes, or maybe 2 flip-flops. Think about what you're going to wear. Like, I always overpack. There's no 2 ways about it on a cruise. But now it's hard to overpack if you're flying and cruising at the same time.
Right.
Because they don't allow you to bring much luggage. But at least we're fortunate that we have the place in Florida,
Right.
so we can repack
if
and
we have
whatever.
to. But the other thing is, though, it makes you think about what you really need.
Yes.
So that you don't overpack. Because I used to travel with a friend that brought absolutely everything on her
yes.
travels. And I mean everything but the kitchen sink. And let me tell you, she didn't wear probably 3/4 of it. And not only that, probably at least 1/3 of that she didn't even fit. But she was hoping, I guess, throughout their travels that she'd be losing weight instead of gaining, because most people are in restaurants eating all kinds of stuff.
Yes.
So if it didn't fit at the beginning, or if it just fit at the beginning, she ain't getting into those stuff at the end of her travels. And so all those stuff went back again.
Wow.
But I mean,
know.
I was like, I'm bringing this one small suitcase because I used to overpack many years ago, but I'm really good now. And I'd be like, traveling my wheeling my one thing in my one backpack.
You pack so light. I don't know how you do it.
And then, but I feel bad because, my friends would have like all these luggage and they're trying to juggle it. And I always feel like I got to help them. And it's like, I'm packing light because I don't want to do all that stuff, because I know I'm not having porters. It's me that's got to carry or push or pull or do whatever. And then all of a sudden I find myself, juggling my friends' luggage because they brought so much. And it would be fine if they actually wore all that stuff, but they don't.
Right.
That's my thing. So think about what you're going to wear. Make the list. And I always say for myself, the worst thing that's going to happen if I did forget something that all of a sudden I could have used, I think about the country that I'm going to. Can I replace it or not? If I can, I never worry about if I miss something.
And speaking about that, don't forget your the thing for the plug-in. If you're going to
the
Europe,
adapter.
The adapter, right.
Yes.
For curling irons and whatever.
Yes.
You definitely need that when you go to Europe. You have to have that. And then again, the money exchange, plan ahead.
Yes.
My one friend who goes every year to Europe starts planning when she gets back and checking the rates all the time and buying the money, as the year goes along,
For the next
so that
trip.
it's not all, one big amount at
Way
the end.
better to dollar average when you have a lot of fluctuations in currency. Absolutely. I do that with US as well, because US is accepted everywhere.
That's
and so
true.
I'm constantly buying, which actually it's gone down a bit, so I need to buy more right now.
Yeah. So, okay, that sounds like
Yeah.
a plan. Anyways, I hope all these tips help you. There's so many more tips that we could talk about, but that could be all day.
Well, one of the things, because I will be traveling, I'm going to Alaska on a cruise, and then I'll be coming back and going on a European cruise, 2 back-to-back, so about 3 weeks on that. But,
leaving me by myself.
But I will be posting on a regular basis some of the things that I've had to go through, whether it's at the airport, on the cruise ship, because even sometimes that checking in on the cruise ship, what it's like sometimes, even for that part.
Right.
And I remember one time going on a cruise, actually we did that in January. We got to the pier, and it was a pier we hadn't come from, and it was cold that day, and it was like so long. But we were able to fast track ourselves because of
we had a special suite, so we were able to go into the
a different lineup.
different lounge and lineup.
And then they brought us in very quickly, thank God. And I was able to piggyback on that because I wasn't in that suite.
Another good thing, if you travel a lot, is to use the Nexus.
Yes.
We both have Nexus, and it saves you so much time and aggravation at the airport.
Even getting off the cruise ship, Andrea, I just show my Nexus. And a lot of people don't realize that they're coming off the cruise.
All you have to do is apply, and then if they think you should have it, they'll call you in for an interview at the customs, U.S. and Canadian. Very easy. And then you,
if you're 5 years.
Yeah, if you're accepted, they send you a card, and you can use it at the border crossings with your car and at the airlines. And
it's also a good ID.
And it's a great ID. And it saves you time at the customs and security. So you have your own special lines, you're pushed through, and it's based on an honor system mostly.
Yeah, don't tell anybody, because the lineups are going to get too long. Then they'll be like the rest of us, right?
I know.
I love it right now when I go through.
Yeah, that's what Eddie says. Don't tell everybody about it, but they're now advertising on Facebook, Nexus, so... Hopefully, I know.
We want to tell our audience, but we don't want anybody else to know.
Exactly. So look into it if you travel a lot.
Yeah. So until next time, I'm Linda.
I'm Andrea.
We hope you like,
share,
and subscribe.
And happy traveling.
For sure. Enjoy your summer, and we'll see you next week.